Welcome back. Well, as I mentioned, we have Jerry here on behalf of Pacific Financial Planners. And, you know, we just learned a wealth of information from you. So thank you for coming back again.
Well, thank you for having me, Lisa. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. And you are kick-starting the year with some great advice, good information, and of course, you guys have another forum that's coming up, and we'll tell everybody about that a little bit later. But, you know, before we get started, for those of our folks who don't know who you are, just tell us a little bit about yourself and Pacific Financial Planners.
Sure. My name's Jerry Slusowitz. I've been a financial planner for 36 years. Seems like a long time. And I've been in the village since 1989 working with the different folks here to help them really transition from getting ready for retirement to navigate through retirement and really passing things on to the next generation. There's a really different strategy involved with that, and I specialize in creating sound income strategies for your listeners.
Right, and that seems very different than most people that you talk to out there who are investment professionals. They want to grow, but then when you get to the point where you're like, well, you know what, I really need money and I really need the dividends or whatever, you're able to guide them through that process, right?
Right, it's a different strategy. I mean, you want to grow your money when you're 25, 45 years old, but when you give up your paycheck because you retire,
right, how
are you going to replace that? Some people say, well, I'm going to continue to dance with the girl I brought to the dance, but other people really need to make a mind shift that they need income, and income is generally safer, and there are safe income strategies that a lot of these growth advisors, nothing wrong with the way they do it, but they're just not set mentally to help people in retirement to navigate for safe income, which is what people really need to replace that paycheck when they retire.
Well, exactly, and that's a frightening prospect, especially if you are coming from a high-profile executive position and you're looking at, a lot of money that you normally get, and then you drop down to, oh gosh, maybe Social Security, which is nothing compared to a paycheck. So let's take a look at how the market did last year. Frightening numbers.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you're a growth investor, sometimes the growth turns into a loss. See, total return comes from two components, growth plus income. And look what happened. The S&P 500 was down around 20%, and the NASDAQ almost 35%. And the small cap index, I threw that in there because that's mostly U.S. companies who do business in the United States, down around 25%. So people who invested for growth, they say, well, the stock market always comes back. Yes, it does. Sometimes not even in a 10-year period of time, but a 15 to 20-year period of time. Well, if you're drawing money off of something that's declining like this, now you're exasperating your situation.
Right.
So this is really kind of a negative viewpoint of what happened last year. And if you've got a lot of money in the stock market, maybe that's not the place for you. If you have some money in, sure, it could be appropriate, but not a huge amount for our listeners.
But even if you are in the stock market, you have ways of keeping check on those things, which I think is it's brilliant because it keeps you in play. It keeps you kind of interested in what's going on, and it helps you minimize those losses.
Right, I call it the 3 Ps. You want to have a plan to participate in the markets, but you need protection. And most people don't have that protection plan. They just have, well, let's just invest, and then they're participating in the market, and their plan is just to hold on and hope and pray. But I have a protection plan that's very unique that helps people when they want to invest some money in the stock market, whether that's through mutual funds, ETFs, or individual stocks.
Okay. So let's talk about not being afraid of possibly changing your strategy from being all in the stock market to doing other things. So you have a couple of ideas here.
Well, new start, new year. I mean, a lot of people make resolutions about, the 5 Fs, faith, family, fitness, finance. And so, this is your financial thing. And what I think is really important that everyone I recommend does is look at your 3 best holdings. Hopefully, they made some money last year. If your 3 best holdings are down, 10, 15, 20% or more, you might want to look at changing that. You also want to look at your 3 worst holdings. There's a garden club here that my mom's involved with and a lot of my clients. Beautiful situation that you have in the village. And, when you plant a garden, sometimes weeds come up. And it's not plant more flowers to cover the weeds. Sometimes you want to pull the weeds. And then when I talk about the 3 worst holdings, maybe you need to know what are your 3 worst holdings last year, and maybe you should pull those weeds. And you can put them in your best holdings if they're good, or somewhere else that I have further recommendations on.
Well, right. And then these are some things that you talk about are different types of bonds and treasury bills and CDs.
Right now, because we got so used to that decade, the lost decade for interest rates between, let's say, 2007 and not even a decade, and 2022, more 14, 15 years where interest rates were 0. Those have come back. I don't think a lot of people realize. I mean, if you're used to banks and CDs, you can get 3 to 4% for less than a year, but there's even better things out there like U.S. Treasury bills, less than a year are paying over 4%, and that is the United States Treasury. Those are safe.
Right.
They're safer than the CDs, not that the CDs have any risk. And then another thing out there for people that are in a high tax bracket is municipal bonds. You can get investment grade municipal bonds just over a year earning 3% with no state or federal tax.
Right.
So those are all pretty good. So if you're not in those arenas, if you don't have some money exposed to treasury, CDs, municipal bonds, and you haven't reviewed your 3 best and 3 worst holdings because you don't know how to do that, it's probably a good time to get an independent review.
Exactly. All right. And then also, let's jump to the next slide here where we're going to talk about predictions. And, that's always tough when you make predictions because we are going to hold you to it, Jerry.
Well, okay, the short-term predictions are hard. That Santa Claus rally, I put the hat on. We didn't get it this year, but that was like a 2-week prediction. And yeah, it didn't happen. But I think my year predictions have been pretty good. It's a little bit longer to weigh itself out. I think the first half of the year is still going to be tough. I mean, we finished the year pretty poorly, right near the lows. And we were a little higher than we were in June, but not much, especially the NASDAQ. But it's going to be tough. So for those holding and hoping that the stock market's going to come back, it might be a little bit more longer than you think. There's going to be a little bit more pain. But and economically, I think that everyone's predicting a recession because they keep raising the interest rates, and interest rates will go up higher. If you have bond mutual funds, you're going to be further losses. If you have individual bonds, you just hold them to maturity and you'll be fine. But I don't think this year is going to be as bad as last year. We showed you the numbers, 20 to 35% losses. I don't see another 20 to 35% down, but I think it could go down another 10 to 15% in the first half of the year. I'm actually hopeful it doesn't go that bad. But I think mid-year next year, the markets are a forward-looking mechanism. They're looking what's going to happen next, not what's happening now. So the news media is going to be predicting, they're going to be talking about how bad things are, and it's only going to get worse because they're doom and gloom. So don't get your news, you don't get your information from the news media about investments.
Right.
Because when things look the worst, that's probably the time, if you are a risk investor for some of your money and you do want to get back in the market, I'm thinking sometime mid-year. But I'll keep coming back and we can keep talking about it.
Well, good. Yeah, so we'll see you again next month. Now, something that's really great, and I know you've been doing it in the Village now for probably the last 6 months to a year, is you're having forums where people will come and you guys sit around and you all talk about individual, maybe somebody has ideas or questions or whatever the case might be. You do provide some sort of question and answers for them regarding finances.
Absolutely. We call it the Financial Forum Club. And this is the New Start, New Year, kind of the whole topic. And it's going to be a dynamic discussion amongst everyone's peers that I kind of lead. And it'll be a little bit on the subjects we just talked about. But we go around the room and people can ask questions. People can make comments about what they're doing. But we've had such a good response, and again, we restarted it after COVID in last year. But prior to COVID, we were around for a couple of years as well. So the club's been around for about 4 or 5 years. But we've grown in size. People are very interested because there's no obligation, no RSVP. Just show up. You don't have to sign in. You don't have to sign anything. And you can ask your questions or ask your questions of someone in the room that you think is smart, and we'll talk about it. But there are opportunities. I mean, the use of these individual bonds and CDs, you don't have to lose money. There are ways to make low returns and have your money safe. And we're going to talk about those things. And we've changed the date and the location. We're now going to be the second Thursday of the month, and it's always 3 to 5. And we're moving to Clubhouse 7 because we needed a bigger room.
I love it. Now, the thing that I gather from what you're doing is that people are learning a lot about how to, help themselves sometimes. But then there's folks out there who don't necessarily know how to do any of this and would rely on somebody. So when someone wants to come see you, is there a financial obligation to visit with you?
No, absolutely not. There's no pressure, no obligation. I've been doing this over 3 decades. I'm here to help. I'm answering questions. I mean, some people have an advisor that they're very comfortable with, but they sometimes want to know what they should ask their advisor. Other people, they've had some issues with their advisors. I don't know how it happens, but sometimes advisors aren't nice to them or they don't answer their questions. I'm kind of the answer guy, and if they want to do business with me, great. If they don't, no problem. I've been doing this a long time. I'm just here to help.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, I love the fact that you're going to have another forum. And of course, let's just remind everybody, it's the second Thursday, so it'll be January 12th, and it will be in Clubhouse 7. And this time, there is no RSVP required because you have a bigger room.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Just come as you are, ask your questions, and we have cookies, coffee. So
Good.
just come on in. It's a friendly atmosphere. Everybody enjoys it.
Perfect. And of course, if anyone has any information or any questions that they would like about information regarding the stock market or investments, they could always go to safeincometoday.com or call that number on the screen. Thank you again.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you
Very
again.
nice to see you, and we appreciate all the information.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right. And as I mentioned, you can always go to safeincometoday.com, and don't forget that the next financial forum is January 12th in Clubhouse 7 from 3 to 5. We'll be right back.